Underwriting deals is such a major pain point for people. Most don't want to do it, and the people that are good at it are few and far between. That is why after 6 years of being in the industry and buying over 1,200 apartments, using my best-selling multifamily deal analyzer, I created Real Estate Lab, a full suite acquisition software for multifamily investors. We have built a product that helps investors automate their acquisitions and close more deals, all in a cloud-based platform. You can go to realestatelab.com and sign up today using the promo code TAG2 for 10% off your first 12 months. This is David Tupin. Thanks for listening.
Welcome to the Apartment Gurus, where we dive deep into all things multifamily investing. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and empower real estate investors to reach their highest potential. Each week, host Tate Siemer and co-host Chelsea Garber interview high-level guests from all over the industry who are sure to bring valuable, actionable ideas that will propel your business to the next level. Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, you are in the right place. And now your hosts, the Apartment Gurus, Tate Siemer and Chelsea Garber.
Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Apartment Gurus podcast. And very, very excited today for this episode. I say that somewhat frequently, and I'm always excited for every episode. But today's guest is very well-known author and speaker and thought leader and operator here in the multifamily space. And he's got a tremendous amount of value to offer, has done a ton of business, lots of deals. I'm very excited to welcome Mr. Rob Beardsley to the show. Rob, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So Rob oversees acquisitions and capital markets for the Lone Star Capital Group, and he's acquired over $300 million of multifamily real estate. That's awesome. He's evaluated thousands of opportunities using proprietary underwriting models and published the number one book on multifamily underwriting called The Definitive Guide to Underwriting Multifamily Acquisitions, which is, like I said, number one book. It's kind of the textbook on underwriting and multifamily. It's famous and everybody should have it, a copy of it, and read it. So Rob grew up in Silicon Valley, California, and currently lives in New York City, where I understand it's quite hot there today, middle of July, end of July. And he enjoys staying active in the gym and reading self-help and business books. So kind of you're always in the self-improvement growth mode, huh, Rob?
Absolutely. It's the only way to be.
I agree. I've got the work hard, play hard thing. I got to check out once in a while when I'm having fun. But yeah, I love the self-improvement space as well. I think it's just kind of a secret sauce in life. But Rob currently has over 2,400 units under ownership and has some really exciting goals that we can talk about here in a bit. So Rob, again, welcome. It's really great to have you.
Yeah, looking forward to the conversation.
You bet. If you would just kind of give the listeners and myself some color into, your background. Grew up in Silicon Valley. How did you get into the multifamily space? And how'd you end up in New York and all that stuff? I'd love to hear a little more about that.
Sure. So yeah, growing up in Silicon Valley, my parents ran a residential brokerage firm from home, buying and selling luxury homes for their clients. And on the side, they did some single family development and fix and flips. And that was my first introduction to real estate, but wasn't really particularly attracted to it. I didn't get the bug until I was in college. I went to school for computer science, and I thought I would go into the tech space, either through a startup or consulting. But I just got the real estate bug. I discovered multifamily, and just the elements of multifamily really resonated with me and my long-term thinking approach. I saw my parents work really hard for commission checks and never really accumulating assets. And so that for me did not look like my dream. I love the idea of building assets, building something for the long term, creating cash flow. that type of stuff really resonated with me, and multifamily is one of the best vehicles for that.
Yep.
So that paradigm shift from single family to multifamily was profound, and ended up meeting my business partner and joining a mentorship group and getting our first deal under contract. And about 5 or so years later, like you said in the introduction, we're here now running the business here in New York with a portfolio all in Texas workforce housing, and $300 million in acquisitions, and in-house property management that we're really proud of, as well as bringing construction management in-house this year as well.
Wow. Okay. So you're going vertical. That's great. I definitely have some questions about, how you scaled to number one, the number of units you have and the assets under management that you have, but number two, expanding into property management. The rule or whatever you want to call it, that I've always subscribed to and have encouraged other people in the podcast and other venues to subscribe to, is to not manage your own properties, mainly for the reasons that it's hard work. You got toilets and tenants, and it's not work that's really revenue generating, or it's not necessarily adding a whole lot to your NOI. That said, I can see how, especially when you get to certain volume, and it sounds like you're really hyper focused in that market. I can see how taking it in-house could be very advantageous. Amongst other things, like when you're third party, you're at their mercy, really. You're at, if they perform, that's great. And if they don't perform, that's terrible. And that's really a make it or break it factor in this space. Like your PM is where your business, the rubber meets the road in your business plan. So I guess share a little bit about your progression into in-housing a property management company and now construction management. What's your philosophy behind that?
Yeah, it was something that we wanted to do for a long time, and we just needed to build up the experience and the portfolio enough to be able to actually make the change to vertically integrate.
Mm-hmm.
But the kind of what you alluded to, the desire to be vertically integrated and manage your own operations is, better transparency, better control over your personnel. And that, so for example, our management company that we launched, Radiance Living, only manages our portfolio. So we don't manage other people's properties for a fee. So we're really not in the fee business. We're just in the business of making sure our deals are run well. And that's obviously important to us. And it's also a great selling point to our investors to be able to tell them that. And I think there is a decent chunk of investors of ours that see that as a big value add and are attracted to us for that. And that will be a similar story on the construction side. And to your point that you said earlier, as far as you don't want to be dealing with management, toilets and termites and tenants, that's absolutely true. And the reality is that sort of idea or methodology really applies, especially to smaller landlords,
mm-hmm.
right? It makes sense to just go third party when it's small, but when you get bigger, you can go in-house and it doesn't necessarily have to be you that does all the work, right? Because with enough scale, we're able to hire the team, and it's more of a team building exercise and a company infrastructure exercise rather than us actually unclogging toilets, right? And up on the roofs. So whether it's third party management or in-house management, your advice is correct. You shouldn't be the one doing the management.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah, that makes total sense. Curious, what's your advice on how many units or how many properties you should have in your portfolio before you consider doing something like this?
Yeah, it varies a bit by the average rent. Right? Obviously, if you're in New York and your average rent is $4,000 per unit, then you could probably get away with going in-house with a much smaller portfolio. for us, when we went in house, our average rents were around $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd say you need about 700 units or something like that. So if I take, just really quick to do some math, if I take 700 units, $1,000 average rent, and then just take a 3% management fee on that, that's $250,000 per year in management fees. And that's about enough to pay for a regional manager and accounting, which are the two biggest expenses that you would have. So yeah, I would say that makes about sense. 250,000 in revenue.
So, okay. So you got that 250, you've got regional management and accounting group. Obviously you need your on-site folks, your leasing agents and maintenance folks. Does that number accommodate that as well in Texas?
Yeah. The way that the management business works is a management company hires employees and trains the on-site staff for a given property, but the property itself is responsible for those employees.
Right.
So that is incorporated in the property's P&L. But the management company is responsible for paying for corporate staff. So for example, our company, we have, regional managers, we have a regional maintenance supervisor, and we're looking at bringing more admin help and things like that. And so those employees that don't necessarily work for a particular property, they have to get paid by us, the management company.
Yeah.
Similarly, accounting, we have to pay for and furnish the accounting for the properties. That comes out of the management company's pocket. However, when it comes to the taxes, like the K1s for investors, the properties pay for investor K1s. So that's kind of your typical breakdown of norms for the management company. So you can see that even at 250, that 250 is gone really quick. And as you continue, so our strategy is, as we continue to scale, right, there's more management fees that come in, right, from 250, then to 500, then to $1 million. And the idea is to just continue to add more and more infrastructure to our management company so that we can continue to manage better and better. So rather than trying to squeeze profits out of that $500,000 of revenue, it's much better to, let's say, hire another regional manager so that we can be even more focused and on top of our deals, because we make way more by making our deals successful than by trying to squeeze profits out of the management.
Yeah, man, it just makes so much sense. My company is at 595 units. So, and we're adding 108 here in the next month or so. And so we're coming up on that number. And look, we've had some struggles with our PMs. Like, we actually had to fire. We have 3 properties in Oklahoma City, and we had a PM that we had to fire, and it was ugly as heck. And but what was worse is that having them at the helm for the time that we had them there really set our business plan back quite a bit. And that's a big problem. Like, obviously termination fees and that sort of thing that we had to pay because we didn't really vet the contract as well as we should have. That was kind of painful, but more importantly for our investors and residents, who are our very top priority, not having a good solid implementation of the business plan was painful. And we've righted the ship. We found a great third-party manager, but I got to be honest, before this conversation, having something in-house, having management in-house wasn't even on my radar. So already here in the first little bit of the show, you've really contributed to my perspective and hopefully some of the listeners' perspectives. My listeners are listeners of this show are there's a lot of people that are breaking into the space and pursuing their first deal. And then we also have operators and sponsors that are just, looking to level up in their portfolio and their balance sheet and operations. So I think this is really valuable to talk about. So yeah. And just to highlight a couple points there, like the transparency issue and the control issue, like your ability to be number one, have your finger on the pulse of everything that's going on in that property. Your own property management's not going to keep secrets from you or, cover things up, or so, you have the ability to, number one, be really powerful in your asset management. Number two, be really like transparent, like you said, with your communications with your investors and other important people. So yeah, that's exciting. And I'm sure construction management is largely kind of a similar conversation when you're doing a lot of value add.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've got a lot of construction happening, and yeah, I have heard that obviously there's less people that have construction in house, so there's not as many people having rules of thumbs. But what I've heard is you need about $3 million per year in CapEx to justify it, which is really not that much.
That's right.
So I think the reason why it's lower is because construction is a higher margin business, just by the way it's set up, right? So instead of paying your contractors, 10%, 20% of your budget, you can bring that in-house, and all of a sudden now you can afford to pay somebody in-house to manage the construction off of a smaller amount of spend. So we have much more than $3 million per year in construction happening. So it makes sense to bring it in, and actually being profitable at the construction level is a lot easier than the management level. So not only can we help with actually, I would say my favorite part about construction in-house, and this has been an issue, is due diligence, actually. Because one of the biggest delays that we have when we go from going under contract to actually finalizing the deal and then launching it to our investors is finalizing the CapEx budget.
Yeah.
So the faster we can do that, go in, do our due diligence, figure out what needs to be done, figure out how much it costs, put a budget together, and then bake the numbers. The faster we can do that, the quicker we can get the deal out to our investors, and then the quicker we can close. And the quicker we can close, the more we can close. So that's probably what I'm most looking forward to, because I hate chasing down GCs asking, hey, did you put the budget together? Did you put the budget together? So it will help with speed, cost,
accuracy, I would think.
Yeah.
Nice. That's super exciting. And, we're definitely looking to scale the way you guys have, and we're looking up to you. So getting some good, solid kind of forward thinking advice on this stuff is really valuable. I want to back up to your intro. As you were sharing a couple things, you kind of briefly shared that you found your partner, you got into a mentorship program, you got your first deal. I mean, all three of those are the ingredients, in my opinion, to busting into this space. And if, we talk about all the time that this is a team sport. So, partnership is, in my opinion, necessary in this space. You hardly see any solopreneurs doing it on their own. And if they are, they're bringing in partners on a deal by deal basis if they don't have, a team built out internally. So I'm curious if you would, share a little bit about how you developed your partnership, and how you guys met, and how you set things up.
Yeah, we met through the mentorship program. So that was very valuable. And we met very organically. We didn't necessarily have an agenda of, hey, I'm out here looking for a partner. It was an exploratory phase, at least for myself. And I think that's one of the benefits of the real estate business, kind of what you alluded to, as far as being able to partner on a deal by deal basis. These don't have to necessarily be lifetime partnerships. You can just say, hey, let's do a deal together and see how it goes, and no hard feelings. If it isn't great, we can just move on. So that's not necessarily how we approached it. It was just more organic. We didn't really plan it out or discuss it much. We just started working on deals together. Hey, let's talk shop. And then from there, when we got the first deal under contract, we, at that point in time, we were just focused all hands on deck to get that first deal done. And then after that, it just made sense. Hey, let's keep this going. Let's make this something legitimate. And we did just that. So we were obviously very fortunate to have it work out, because I'm sure many other people try and it's just not a good fit. Maybe they come to find that the other partner is maybe not as hardworking as they thought, or not as honest as they thought. Who knows what it could be. So I think as you said, it's one of the most important things for your success is finding the right partner to really accelerate your success.
Yeah. Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. I think it's not only possible to not have for lack of a better term, like a long-term company partner off the bat, because it's kind of like dating. Like, why would you not date around when you're single? And I happen to be single and dating, so this is a fresh topic for me. But why would you not do that? Why wouldn't you make 100% sure that if you're going to get into a long-term partnership, quote unquote lifetime partnership or whatever, where you're doing every deal together, why wouldn't you do a deal or two or three together on a deal by deal basis so that you can make sure that it is a good fit? And it sounds like that's what you guys did. I love what you did about going out and just working on deals. Like, you didn't talk a whole lot about, let's set it up this way. Let's call it this. Let's brand this. You just kind of went out and got deals and then got one under contract and just went for it. Like, do whatever it takes to get that deal done. All hands on deck. Like you said, that is where, again, there's no better way to level up in your business at the beginning, in my opinion, than going deal first, or capital raising first. That's kind of another subject, but we were a deal first company. The bottom line is we put ourselves in situations where we created deal flow first, got a deal under contract. And like you said, you just do whatever it takes to get the deal done, because if you've never done a commercial deal like that before, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of moving parts between the contract and closing. So I think I can't think of a better way to vet a partnership than to do something like that, where you're in the trenches together, actually working on a deal. Yeah.
Definitely. The other interesting thing is we didn't really discuss too much about roles and responsibilities, because when you're starting out, it's kind of all hands on deck and you just need to get in where you fit in and make things happen, right? It's going to be in the trenches. Like you said, it's going to be scrappy. So only until recently have we really had more explicit discussions as we built out the team, and we have, a growing team now to where we actually have to say, okay, this person focuses on this person focuses on that. And sometimes you even have to catch yourself and police yourself when you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. It's not that you're doing something wrong, but if we're now trying to be more efficient and delegate, it's like, well, hey, is that the best use of your time, right? Because now you've outgrown this task or project.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's again, like it just, it makes sense. We're in a similar phase in our business. I've got two partners, Carl York, Chelsea Garber. They're amazing partners, and I'm very, very blessed. And we developed those relationships over, Carl and I have been working together since '99, as a lot of the listeners know. And so we had proof of concept long before we entered the commercial real estate space together. But yeah, like you said, when you start to, like we just added an executive assistant, a VA, and that works from Mexico, a British guy that lives in Mexico working for us. And we have a VA that does all our marketing, graphic design stuff. And, when you bring those team members on, you have to be tight within the existing team on systems and processes, or at least as tight as possible. And before we had those guys, I just can totally relate to what you're sharing about all hands on deck. Like, here's this stuff on the table that needs to get done. Let's go for it, get it done, and get this deal closed so we can, move on and get the asset management implemented. And then when it came to asset management on these deals, it was kind of the same thing. Like, all three of us are on most of the calls, and we're participating together on the calls. But the result of that has been, and I don't know, I'd like to hear your experience, but the challenge of growing a company like that, and just having an ethic where we're just getting it done kind of thing, versus like building the systems and processes that it takes to build a team. Because if the three of us were completely disorganized and there wasn't any real roles and responsibilities defined, and systems and processes defined, our executive assistant would be like, how do I fit in? Right. Like, you guys are doing everything, and like, what do we do here? Was that your systems and processes implementation? And it sounds like you're maybe still working on it a little bit, but was that a challenge? Was it a big chore? And I guess, did you get any like help with that, with building your systems and processes out?
So I would say that we have a long way to go on that front. And going back to the all hands on deck thing, when you start out, it's extremely beneficial, because that way everybody gets to learn together, right? So, for example, my business partner is an attorney. And when we first started out, both him and I were on every single call when it came to the purchase and sale contracts, right? But now, and that was really helpful because I learned a ton. But now I'm never on those calls. And then maybe he'll just ask me about one critical issue. Hey, there's this one term in the contract that they're pushing back on. What's your quick thought? So when you're starting out, I think it's great for everyone to do everything just for learning purposes. But then beyond that, truly, you do want to get away from that as quickly as possible. So that way you can leverage your time and effort as quickly as possible. And then getting to the systems question, it's more leverage. And, the other way to leverage is through hiring and delegation. And so what I'd say is we're kind of spoiled with such good employees and, such a good team that we don't necessarily have to do great systems and processes, because if you have really smart people, they can just do everything, and they can just keep things in their head and remember things, and they're smart. They know what to do without being told. So that's a good thing, but also a bad thing, because, I've read books on processes and all that stuff, and it's so important. You basically want to have systems, standard operating procedures so clear that if you could pull a random person off the street and said, hey, do this job, they'd be able to do it. Yeah. And we do not have that by any means, right? It's a big project, and it's something that we'd love to have, and we need to have it, because even though we're so smart, I hate to say that, even though my team is so smart, I'm not that smart. Yeah. Even though my team is so smart, when there's a lot going on, things slip through the cracks, right? You forget, it's easy when you've got one deal under contract, but how about 3 deals under contract at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you guys started to grow your team and started adding employees, did you start with just one? Did you build a team under you? How did you do that?
Yeah, we started one at a time, and our hiring for the most part has been very opportunistic.
Okay.
So it's been, for the most part, just, this person is interested and it seems like a good fit. Let's make it work. Only one instance have we actually done a formal, for the corporate team. For the management side, we've done more programmatic hiring, but for the corporate team, we've only done one formal hiring process where we put out a job posting, we conducted interviews, collected resumes, all that stuff. So for the most part, it's been kind of through referrals, introductions, warm hiring. So that has been a big success.
What's your team currently, your corporate team currently look like, and are they all based in New York?
Yes, we are all based in New York. There is 8 of us, and so we have our acquisition side, which I oversee with a director of acquisitions and an analyst. And then we have 2 people on the marketing side / investor relations, which I also oversee. And then my business partner oversees the operations. So we have an asset manager and an operations person. And that's how we divvy things up now. So we're trying to be more organized, and we are definitely in need of adding more firepower to the asset management side.
Gotcha. I'm just taking a few notes here. This is good stuff. Um, okay, so you've got a team of 8 there, and then you've got, I'm assuming in your on the management side, you've got your regionals, and do you have any management presence in New York, or are they all in Texas?
Everybody's in Houston.
Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Awesome. So where do you see your guys going next? It sounds like you're going to add, you're going to get a little more robust on the asset management part of your team.
Yeah, getting help on the transaction coordination specifically. So it's interesting because, and I'm sure companies all do this differently, but at some point the handoff has to be made between acquisitions and asset management. Mm-hmm. And you could do it at closing, you could do it before closing. So it's a bit fluid, but for us, we get asset management involved pretty early. And so we're choosing to kind of fold transaction coordination under asset management. So what I mean by transaction coordination is just literally managing all the deals from PSA to closing. And there's a lot of work, as you know, that goes into actually that, and making sure that nothing slips through the cracks and that we don't have delays. So transaction coordination / asset management, that's what we're looking to beef up. And it's not necessarily a full-time position, right? Because we don't really have, I don't know how many deals it would take to fill up a full-time position, just transaction coordinating, but I don't think we have that full-time. So it would need to be somebody who has asset management responsibilities and they do the transaction coordination.
Yeah. That's great stuff. I'm listening to the different positions you have, and I'm kind of checking things off in my head around, like, I wouldn't have to manage like the contracts back and forth with attorneys and the seller, and like that would all be taken care of, and it would be taken care of by somebody that's dedicated to just that. I mean, that sounds dreamy from my perspective. Like the minutia that I would potentially get rid of in my space would free me up to even, go out and find more deals, find more investors, find more, institutional sources and that sort of thing. So that's amazing. I love your team building, and I appreciate you being transparent with us about, like, it's stuff you're still working on, right? Like, as you grow, it's important to realize what you don't have and what you need. And so I appreciate you sharing from that perspective. Let's talk about your book for a sec. It's a foundational book in this space. It's one that I had heard of years, at least a couple of years. It's been out for a bit, right?
Yeah, a little over 2 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I've been aware of it for a long time. I honestly haven't had a chance to pick it up and read it yet, but if share a little bit about the book, kind of what inspired you to write it, and kind of also what impact it's had so far.
Yeah, so I wrote the definitive guide to underwriting multifamily acquisitions, and that really it's a straightforward how-to guide to underwriting as far as, our process and the way that we approach things. And it's modeled off of the underwriting model tool that I built from scratch and that we use every day to evaluate all the deals that we do. So I was really surprised when I entered the business and that this sort of book didn't already exist. Mm-hmm. I just would figure that something foundational to the business like this would already exist, because to me, underwriting is one of the core things about the business, right? You have to be able to understand the numbers in order to understand this business. And for me, I'm a numbers guy, so that's what I gravitated to right away. So after I went about learning the business and just learning by doing, I thought it would be an awesome resource to be able to give back, to actually write this and fill that gap in the market.
Yeah. Yeah. You identified a need that people had, and you filled it. That's awesome. And it's a value add to the community and to all of us investors that are learning the business. And that's tremendous. So you developed your underwriting tool. You published the book. From what I understand, it's been very successful as a book, right?
Yeah. We've sold nearly 6,000 copies and it's been out for a little over 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. You find that people are taking the book and the spreadsheet and just like kind of hook, line, and sinker, using it in their business. You see that a lot?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, pretty much the same amount of people have bought the book as they've downloaded the model. So the model's been downloaded over 5,000 times. And, I hear that people reach out and say that they use the model and people have questions and people actually improve the model. They send suggestions, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
So somewhat of a little community there. And we're open to suggestions and we're always tweaking things and improving things and whatnot. But it's been really big, not just for us kind of operationally, but also as a marketing tool to get our name out there, to establish credibility. Investors obviously are attracted to that credibility, and it builds instant trust to be a published author and whatnot. So that has been a very, very helpful.
So listeners, big takeaway here. One of the best, most impactful, most efficient ways to build credibility, to build your brand, is to become a thought leader. And whether that's publishing a book, doing a podcast, becoming a speaker, ideally it's a kind of a combination of maybe a couple of those, so that you have a presence when people Google you. That's, it's usually the first thing or amongst the first things they see. I think there's a special mystique around publishing a book. It seems like so few people do that. And so to be able to deep dive enough into a topic and research it and develop it and everything into a book, first of all, I think it's an awesome accomplishment, and I can see how it would, be a big brand builder, big credibility builder. And that's not maybe necessarily why I started the podcast and why you wrote the book. Hopefully there's an element of, like you just said, giving back, and being a value add contribution to people's success. But man, is that a nice, kind of a nice bonus that comes along with doing this stuff is like, wow. I mean, I was sitting in an attorney's office the other day, and he's actually our attorney. He hadn't tuned into our podcast yet. And so he pulled it up while we were sitting there talking. He's like, dude, you have 110 episodes? Like, that's got to be so solid when it comes to attracting investors, because it shows commitment over time. It shows your ability to perform over time, and, creativity and everything else that goes along with being successful. So I can see how, it would be a tremendous asset for you and your business, moving forward. Do you have any plans for, we'll talk about the conference here in a bit, but do you have plans for other books or other thought leadership type stuff?
Yeah, I'm currently working on my second book.
Nice.
Yeah.
You want to share what it's about, or is it still a work in progress?
Yeah, I mean, it's in progress, but it's kind of a building upon the underwriting book, and it's about structuring and raising debt and equity for real estate. So it's getting to that next level of actually putting the deal together after you've, been able to identify an opportunity.
Dude, that's awesome. Like, raising debt and equity, guys, listeners, is a massive, massive part of this game. You can go out and tie up a $10 million deal, and if you don't have what it takes to get the loan, particular a key principal or sponsor on your team that will qualify for the loan, and or if you don't have the kind of the machinery to go out and either raise capital on a retail level, or if you don't have the relationships with, like, say, institutional equity, then it's kind of a non-starter. If you do have those tools and relationships, that's how you get deals done. So, I mean, we talk about raising capital on this show all the time, and debt too. And the debt space is tricky right now. Like it got in the last 4 months or so, it's gotten really, really tricky. And so having a book about it, again, I think Hunter Thompson has a great book about raising capital, but I don't really know of anything else specific to multifamily in the capital raising space. I'm sure there probably are a few resources, but that's going to be tremendous. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I bet. So, and then your conference is in September. Tell us a little bit about that. What's it called, and what's it going to be about?
Yeah, the conference that we're hosting September 19 and 20 in New York, we're calling it the LSC NY Summit. We hosted our first event last year in October, and it was a really great time. We brought people together from our network as far as investors, family offices, funds, preferred equity firms, lenders, and then we brought sponsors together as well, of course. And we did a deal Shark Tank that we're bringing back for this year. So sponsors are able to pitch deals to panels of investors, and then we get to kind of see the investors analyze the deals and ask their questions and go back and forth. And then there's also just your typical panels that we'll have and some keynotes that I'm really looking forward to. And of course, networking. At the end of the day, bringing sponsors and investors together is all about networking and building relationships to be able to do deals. So yeah, that's and have a bit of fun too. Last year we did a whiskey tasting. We went to a cigar lounge. So we're doing the same thing this year with a bit of a different setup and agenda. So I think it'll be a bit better this year. We'll continue obviously to improve. So I'm looking forward to having a bigger, better event this year.
So listeners, you want to go to LSC Summit 2022.com. Is that correct? Does that get them there?
It'll be easier just to go to our main website, lscre.com. Okay. And then there's an events tab and that will take you to the website. So yeah, we're sold out of VIP, unfortunately, but we've got some general tickets available, and that's definitely need to make sure there's more room for VIP next year.
I mean, to me, like, this is almost a do not miss from where I'm sitting in our business right now. It sounds pretty next level as far as it sounds like there's going to be it's probably mostly experienced investors and then debt and capital sources. I'd say, majority of the national conferences that I've been to over the last 4 years are a little more entry level, I think. And it sounds like you guys are just setting up something super powerful, platform where people that are doing big things can get together and do bigger things. And that's super exciting.
Yeah, I think, that's exactly right. We want to be a little bit different. The things that I don't like about conferences are the beginners are there and they sit and listen to the presentations. The experienced people are there, but they're in the back of the room or outside and they want to do networking. Yeah. And so neither is really getting the best of both worlds. They're kind of getting half of what they came for. So our intention or our vision is to have content that is strong, that everyone wants to be in the room for, and then have networking time that everyone can network in, and then make that successful. So rather than getting half of each, you get full on both.
So lscre.com, everybody. That's where you want to go. Get your tickets now. I'm going to check my calendar and see if I can't get there. It sounds incredibly valuable and exciting. Yeah, awesome. So I want to touch a little bit on your goals that you shared off air. You've got some really exciting ones going. I believe you're going for $250 million in assets acquisitions here in 2022. You're currently getting pretty dang close to that number. It sounds like here in July. So it sounds like you've been successful around that one.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a great start to the year, and I think, as you know, there's a lot of things happening in the market that are going to be challenging for the rest of the year. and we've got some deals under contract that we need to close. So that's, we're going to continue to work on that. But yeah, it's been a good start, and we just need to build on it. And like I said, the changing market, you can't force things. Yeah. If we have a recession and deals are much harder to do, the numbers don't make sense, then we just can't force it. But if we can, then we'd love to continue to scale by 250 million in a year of acquisitions, and then scale it to 500 million as quickly as possible.
What do you think your average deal size looks like? You've done 215 million this year. How many deals is that, and what's the average deal size look like?
So I think that's 6 deals.
Okay.
So just without doing the math, I think our average deal size is somewhere around 30 million. 30 million
yeah, that's what the number I kind of came to. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's right what we're doing right now too, is that size asset. Yeah, so 6 deals so far this year, so 3 a quarter. That's legit.
It's busy, and that volume is revealing to us our failure on the transaction coordination side, right? You've got to be able to find the deal and raise the money. Those are the 2 big ones. But the thing in the middle that we sometimes forget is the actual transaction itself, getting the deal closed, right? It's one thing to actually get the deal, and it's another thing to raise the money, but then also you have to have it all organized and get it together. So, when you have 3-4 deals under contract at once, it becomes a real issue. Yeah, I can see how that. Absolutely. We've got 2 deals right now, and it feels like we're all hands on deck, like we were talking about earlier. And yeah, having somebody that's solely focused on the logistics of those deals would be tremendous. Well, Rob, we're getting pretty close to being up against time here. I want to ask you just a couple like general questions. What else have we not talked about that you're looking to accomplish inside of this space? We kind of know what your numeric metric goals are, but and you're working on a new book, which sounds awesome. What else and you're doing your conference. So you're doing big contributions in addition to doing great business. Is there anything else on the radar for you? It's not on the immediate horizon, but I really want to get into the development space. Okay. Yeah. So develop multifamily, and then rather than selling it off like so many developers do, I'd like to develop it and then keep it and integrate it into our portfolio. It's awesome. Build to rent, right? And yep. And buy or build and hold really is the strategy there. Yeah. And most of these markets I know that a lot of the Texas markets, with cap rates, up until recently, cap rates were in the 2s and 3s in Austin and Dallas and some of those markets. With that happening, your replacement cost, your cost to build can often be less than buying an existing asset that's 10 years old or 20 years old kind of thing. So that's exciting. Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. And then I guess final question here for you is, you got a ton of experience so far. I mean, for the number of years that you've been in the business, you guys are cranking, man. And congratulations on all your success. You've seen a lot of stuff work for you. You've seen, and you've been transparent with us about kind of room for improvement type stuff. And I know that with the conference and the books, and you see a lot of other investors in this space. What do you see in the investors that, bust through the first deal, get to, 50 to 100 million in assets under management pretty quickly? What do you see that they're doing or that they have or possess that others don't, as far as, really moving the needle in the business? At the end of the day, it's about access to capital. I think that's really it. And everything we do is to serve our investors, and it's a positive loop, right? If you are able to successfully raise money and then do well in the deal with that money, and not just do well financially, but also from a customer service perspective or investor relations perspective, that's how you get investors to come back. And if you can just stack more capital on top of the other and get repeat investors and just build your base, it doesn't take, it's a long road with a lot of work, but it doesn't take that many investors to really get to a level where you're raising as much money as you want. I'm not there yet, but it's a really good road to be on. So it's a long-term game that builds on itself. It's not like, you make it to the NBA and you get a nice contract, but then when that contract's up, that's it. Your earning power is gone, right? It's just building that investor relation muscle just grows and grows and grows. So the people that grow quickly are the people that have either, one major investor that's taking a bet on them and funding them early and they're able to just buy. And of course they're going to make mistakes, but through that process of doing a lot of work, they're able to hire faster, and therefore they're able to fix things and grow things even faster. Or they just have a marketing funnel that is working and able to bring in many investors. Because even if you have a really good, all of us have some family and friends network, whether it's small or large, but we all run out of it pretty quickly, and you have to go out to the real world to raise money eventually. So building that sooner rather than later is obviously the key there.
That's awesome. That's a great place to wrap it up. This has been incredibly enlightening for me. I know listeners are equally contributed to by this, Rob. A lot of gratitude to you for coming on the show, and also, what you're doing in the thought leadership space, the book, the conference, the next book, and being a podcast guest and a speaker, all that stuff. You're rocking it, man. And it's really good to get a chance to visit with you and learn from you, and really appreciate it. Wish you all the best.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was a great conversation.
Yeah. I look forward to hopefully meeting you in September in person. I'd love to be at that conference, and I'm going to see if I can't make it happen. So listeners, like I've talked before, not a ton about these national conferences, but when we're talking about starting out in this space, there's nothing more powerful than putting yourself in a room of, 4 or 5, 300 people that are doing the business and have a lot of experience with it. And, when you're really like in the presence of somebody that's like going where you haven't gone yet, but you want to go, it makes it so much less daunting to look at. And it really is a mindset expander for at least these national conferences have been for me. Each one I've gone to has opened up the horizon for what we want to be doing. So I really encourage you guys to consider getting to Rob's conference in September. And again, it's lscre.com for that information. Is that the best way for listeners to reach out to you, Rob?
Yeah. On our website, you've got the events page that we talked about. On the homepage, there's the free underwriting model download, links to the articles, book, hopefully soon books. So yeah, there's a lot there. And also I post every day on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with me there as well.
Yep. You're a great LinkedIn follow. Yep. We're friends on LinkedIn. So, all right, Rob, thanks a ton. Listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of The Apartment Guys. We will check you on the next one, everybody. Take care.
Thanks for listening to The Apartment Gurus with Tate Siemer. Tate and Chelsea are grateful to have you as a loyal listener. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe, rate, and review, and share with friends on your Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or any other podcast platform. Also, check out Tate's YouTube channel for videos of many of these episodes and more. Until next time, take massive action steps and rock on.